Hello and welcome to the 46 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Tonight's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. The key word is an assessment. Get an assessment done by the folks at S2 on what kind of swing decisions you're making in baseball or softball. Again, unbelievable technology to help you take your game to the next level. I want to also say thank you to Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. Easy to use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level of our sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. It is the Monday after Easter, and I am joined by the great Fitty Barrels, Aaron J. Fitt, and Kendall, Bradley, J. Rogers. The Kendall is like the king of the rankings. I don't know why you don't include us in the rankings, Kendall. Why you just insist on making the decisions all yours?
Yeah, I was. It's kind of funny. I was on our newly minted forums that we put out, and
Yes.
there's some days I regret doing this, but there was a post on there that said that somebody could not believe that the four of us get to choose the rankings that ESPN uses because we haven't covered college baseball enough.
Wow,
that's our total number of years we've covered college baseball is kind of a lot.
When they're right, they're right, Kendall. They got our number.
Yeah, I think our wives would describe us as obsessed with college baseball. So if that doesn't qualify us, I don't know what does. Oh, goodness. Yeah, the old Florida Gators, they're going to be the end of us. I don't know if every year there's a team like this, but boy, they're special.
I can't remember. Like, I was trying to think about it the other day. Like, I don't remember a team being like Florida.
Yeah.
Where they literally cannot win a midweek game.
It's weird. And it's weird because it's 3 weeks in a row they've had the exact same week where they've gone 2-2. They've lost a midweek game. And they've come back to win 2 out of 3 against a ranked opponent on the weekend. And it's like, you cannot move up. You cannot drop. You just kind of have to tread water there. And like, are they still the team that people are all up in arms about? Like, I've not been engaged.
Yes. People. Well, Nebraska fans, amazingly, are the ones that were complaining the most about Florida State because their record's better.
Oh, well, in that case.
Besides Kendall,
Florida's
public enemy number one.
And North Dakota State, I bet their record would be pretty good.
Yeah. Who knew the Florida Gators would be such villains? The Florida State thing, I get it. Like, they're still upset about football. Like, I didn't realize that we were going to drag football. Like, I didn't realize that the football playoff committee was going to actually cause Kendall harm. Well, that committee screwed you, Kendall.
It's Kendall's own fault for listening to what they told him to do. I mean, he should have just been his own man, ranking baseball teams. You say, hey, listen, committee, you stand back. I got this.
Yeah,
exactly.
But let's say this for the record. By the way, Fitzy, I know you know this, but you said 3. They've had 3 of the exact same week. The crazy Florida has lost 5 consecutive Tuesdays. Like, Sully, if you're listening, can we hit the sprinklers next Tuesday? Like, just stop it already. But can we just all agree? Like, just put your fandom down. The weekends are more important than Tuesdays in college baseball. Everything is about the weekends. Like, that is the first commandment of college baseball, right? We all agree there, right?
And it doesn't mean that Tuesdays don't matter at all. I mean, they haven't moved Florida up either. But they have won their weekends against not only ranked opponents. I mean, it was LSU on the road and A&M when they were top 5 team. Like, those are premier weekends. And then this weekend, a good Mississippi State team. At home, like, take 2 out of 3, fine. I mean, you're gonna hold your ground. You just plain aren't gonna drop. I mean, I can't understand why this is so hard for people. I don't get it.
The beauty of it, though, is that is this the first week of the Nerdcast?
Yeah,
it is,
night, baby.
Which means RPI will become the new villain, not rankings.
That's
the promised land is right there, Kendall, for us to see. It's right there.
Yeah, that's what you think.
But no, rankings angst is way more severe than Nerdcast angst, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, I feel like rankings people take as like a personal affront, like you've insulted their child. The RPI and the field of 64, just I don't know. I guess it is probably the same thing.
We've had in the last 2 weeks, we've had like I think there's somebody who said they were going to cancel their. No, they weren't actually a subscriber, but they said this is why I'll never subscribe to D1Baseball. It's because of our rankings. So,
the thing that I enjoy, I enjoy the banter. Like I know Aaron doesn't like to engage it, but I had a guy a couple weeks ago who said, "I'm just for that. This is a joke. I'm canceling my subscription." Well, he just happened to be posting his real name, so I go in our system, and I don't see his name on there, and I don't see a name any even close to that. So I go tweet back at him and said, "Hey, how can you unsubscribe when you're not even a subscriber?" And he responded with something like, I'll definitely never subscribe now.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. The whole thing about Twitter is just people even forget that you're anonymous on it. So anyway,
my rule is this: if you want to debate something, tell you what, if you're posting under a actual real name, I'll debate you. But I'm not debating with Aaron Fitz Love Child 946437. Not happening.
And listen, stay away from the porn bots on Twitter. If you're a college baseball coach, I'm not going to call anybody out. All right,
Twitch green.
what? No.
But in fairness, the porn bots actually was a legitimate tweet by the porn bot. The AI is out of control.
They're getting smarter. I noticed. I almost got tricked by one just this week, but I didn't. I didn't. I noticed it, but they responded to one of our tweets about Duke or Coach Pollard or when his atmosphere Jack Coombs, and it was a very almost a cogent thought that they put together. This bot, and but you got to watch out for him.
Got to watch Aaron click twice.
That's right.
Oh, it's classic. So anyway, boys, let's have some fun on this podcast. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go over it's the halfway point of the season. So we'll go over some of the midseason awards. Really the discussion about it. We don't necessarily have to name it. I think there'll be a piece about this, correct, Fitzy, that'll come out. On the midseason,
so Wednesday or Thursday, I forget exactly.
Okay, so this will be, and we've been talking about this on the chat. So the awards we'll go over will be top player, top pitcher, top freshman, best coaching job so far, biggest surprise for a team, biggest disappointment for a team, breakout star, breakout prospect would be more draft centric, and then I've got a golden spikes discussion that I want to have with you guys, and maybe we'll have it. Well, no, I'll save it for the end. All right. Fitzy, top player. Yeah. I actually pitched this on somebody and said it was obvious, but maybe it is. What do you got, Fitzy?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Chucky Condon. Can we call him Chucky? Is that allowed now?
Charles. I like Charles Condon.
Charles is acceptable.
Chuck Condon. Yep.
Charles is in charge for sure. Guys, it's a 1803 OPS. I mean, he's hitting. We're halfway through the season, guys. What do we got? 7 weeks in the books now? Is it 7? He's hitting 505. I mean, with 19 bombs. What in the world? I mean, it's insane what he's doing. I mean, he's got 26 walks, 15 strikeouts, and anything you could look for, he's doing it. And as great of a year as Travis Bazzana is having, and it's an insane year that would also be entirely worthy of Player of the Year. I mean, Bazzana's hitting 469 with a 1,600 ops and 28 to 11 walk to strikeout. He's playing a premium position. I just think that Condon's numbers are so bonkers. However, with that caveat, neither one of these guys is maybe, if you look at the strength of schedule, maybe that's the one nit you could pick here that could kind of keep this thing open a little bit. So what say you guys?
Kendall?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, at this point, it'd be Condon for sure. But I mean, the other two guys that are front of mind for me would be Braden Montgomery at A&M and Cags at Florida. I mean, the thing about Jack is Florida has been kind of the hot topic, right? And where would Florida be without Cags? He's had big hit after big hit. He's come up huge on the mound. That was kind of the area, right, that we kind of wondered if he would take that next step. And right now, 2.18 ERA, 6 starts, 33 innings of work, 44 strikeouts, 138. Teams are hitting 138 against him. He's been a really solid weekend starter, and that was kind of the big question mark. And he's also hitting, 389 with 13 homers and 29 RBIs. So, I mean, Condon's a choice now, but I think those other two guys for me are very front of mind as well. Probably Cags right after Condon, and then I think for me, I mean, the best player I've seen in person this year by far is Braden Montgomery. He's just on another level right now for him. And I want to say what's kind of crazy about Condon is like Condon's OPS is, you said, is like over 1.8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Braden Montgomery's been unbelievable, and his OPS is only 1.48. So it's just crazy.
It's insane.
Okay, so let me throw this. Let's do this talk now. Like for me, it's Condon right now, but Kendall's point on Cags is well taken. So let me give you guys a scenario. Let's think about the Golden Spikes Award. So let's fast forward. I'm just forecasting, right? Don't get mad at me, people. But Georgia does not make the NCAA tournament. Florida is a host. So I'm being hard on Georgia. I'm rounding up for Florida. I get it. Cags is 20 plus home runs. He's probably going to finish with 25 home runs. He's, and even as we sit here today, his OPS is higher than what it was last year. So let's say Cags goes 25 home runs. I mean, his ERA ends up under 3 for the year. They continue to win all of his starts. Man, does it get harder to give the Golden Spikes Award to Charlie Condon at that point?
Yes. And I think too that, the categories we're talking about, we kind of separated player and pitcher, right? And so I was really just looking at the position player side of it, not factoring in the overall value. If we're talking about a Golden Spikes Award discussion, it's a little bit different. And I do think that, right now, if I had to place a vote for the Golden Spikes Award at the midseason point, it's a little bit different. It's just a different question, Runes. And I think maybe the answer is Cags. Do you agree? Like right now, if you had to, I don't know, maybe not. I mean, Condon's numbers are so bonkers, maybe still Condon, but like you're right. Cause Cags his pitching value has been very good. I mean, it's very good.
Yeah. I will say this though, as a strike in Condon's direction is Andrew Vaughn of Cal won the Golden Spikes Award when his team did not make the NCAA tournament back in 2018.
Yep.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen for sure. It just like,
and his numbers aren't even close to what Condon's are this year. Granted, he did not play with the ball and the bat that we're playing with now.
Yeah. And like there's a long way to go. Condon's hitting 502 right now, but it's bonkers. Like to think like the fact that you have to kind of search your brain a little bit to think about the year Cags is having is a testament to the year Charlie Condon's having. And again, like last year, Dylan Cruz had an incredible year, don't get me wrong, but for Paul Skeens to not win the Golden Spikes last year feels like the crime of the century.
I mean, it's I wrote a Golden Spikes spotlight on, I think it was Burns this year, and I was comparing him to Skeens, and I referred to Skeens as the Golden Spikes Award winner of last year because I just assumed, like in my brain, like that's of course it was Skeens, like he had a historically great season, and somebody had to correct me that he didn't actually win it. It was Dylan Cruz. Like, oh yeah, that's right, that was crazy,
crazy.
And Cruz was great last year, but Skeens was historic.
Yeah, historic. That's the word. So
hey, here can I just interject with something real quick?
Yeah.
So it's interesting we talk about Skeens. I thought Joe Healy, by the way, if you go back and look at some of the stories from over the weekend, Joe Healy wrote a piece after Hagen Smith's start about the comparisons between Hagen and Paul Skeens from last year, and I thought it was really interesting, like the race between those two from like this point last year for Paul and where Hagen is now at this point in the season. Like it's not very far off. It really isn't. Like it's much closer than I thought.
The only real difference is the first start where Hagen came out and had that the bad, terrible weather, only had one inning, outing the first start, and that kind of is the one thing that threw off his pace. Otherwise, it'd be like spot on with Skeens, like line by line. It's really, it's very, very, very impressive what he's doing.
Yep. Perfect segue to midseason pitcher of the year award. Because it's interesting, like Joe covers the SEC for us clearly, but he's a national guy. I mean, he's all over college baseball, period. But Chase Burns, like I think somebody can write an article that says Chase Burns is having a Skeens-like year. Like if you look at Burns, Hagen Smith had one bad inning against JMU and came out of the game. Chase Burns kind of had one. Like I wasn't there clearly, but it sounded like the wind was gusting out in Winston-Salem. We know that park is, like it's shrunk, right? Like somebody left it in the dryer too long. And, it's basically, he punched out 14 Burns in that loss to North Carolina. So, I mean, I will say it. I think we all believe the answer is Hagen Smith for midseason pitcher of the year, but I was blown away at how close Chase Burns is to Hagen Smith. I don't know. What say you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Burns, he leads the country in strikeouts. He's got 82 of them, only 12 walks, right? I mean, in 43 innings, that's bonkers. That's really, really good. I mean, I think the ERA is a little bit, as you said, maybe artificially inflated. Well, not artificially. He gave up the runs. I mean, it is what it is. But like it's 2.89 ERA. It's perfectly fine. And in this day and age is excellent in this climate, this offense crazy climate. But Hagen is 5-0, 1.54. I mean, with 72 strikeouts and 10 walks, it's like almost as many strikeouts. He's got fewer innings because of that one shortened start. So the strikeout rate is just as good. Opponent's only hitting 136 against Hagen Smith, guys.
It's crazy.
Which is just nuts, especially considering the schedule they face. So yeah, I mean, it's just for me, it is an easy call still. It's definitely Hagen Smith.
Yeah, the batting average against to me is the thing that, like, they both. It's kind of one of those things where it's a shame that they're both here in the same year because they're both having. I would say they're both having kind of historic seasons. I just like Chase Burns' ERA kind of pisses me off because he's having I know 2.89 to your point, Fitzy is an incredible ERA. He's really having a better year than that. If not for four home runs at Wake Forest. But
just circling back on the K rate, Hagen actually, despite having 10 fewer strikeouts, has a higher strikeout percentage, 54.5%. Burns 49.4%. Both ridiculous, but I mean, it's just crazy. We've got two really, really special performers going on there.
How about Kendall? Chase Burns he has not hit a batter this year. Is that just good pitching, or are you going to dock him on the bar fight meter?
It's good pitching. I don't feel like that really factors in the bar fight meter.
No, he doesn't need to pitch in. Like, why would you pitch in if you're Chase Burns? Just throw your hundo middle away and then, get
exactly.
People. Yeah, like whatever. Why even take a risk in there? So, you go on Hagen Smith also, Kendall, or did you have to recuse yourself because he's East Texan?
Not only is he Texan, he's like 45 minutes from Lufkin. I want to say. Yeah.
What's the name of his town again?
I want to say he's from Nacogdoches, I believe. Let me make sure.
That's where one of the universities is, right? Is that
where? Oh, he's from Bullard, Texas, which is actually not. So that's more like an hour, but it's around Tyler, Texas, if you know where that is.
Who's got a better football team, Cut and Shoot or Bullard, Texas?
Well, Cut and Shoot doesn't have a high school, so Bullard.
That's unfortunate.
The only college baseball player I know from Bullard was do you remember the third baseman from A&M about 6 or 7 years ago? He was actually an all-conference player, but Brody Green.
Rings a bell.
At all? Yeah, he was an all-conference guy. He's from Bullard.
All right, you go Bullard.
It's a little. Well, it's kind of a neat story, honestly, with Hagen because it's just a tiny little town between I want to say Jacksonville and Tyler, Texas. So it's pretty cool. Cool story.
There's a Jacksonville, Texas.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes north of Lufkin. It's maybe 6,000 people.
You guys have a Kendall. Can I be critical of Texas for a second? You've got a Jacksonville. You've got a Pasadena. I mean, come on,
Paris.
You got a Paris. Like, can we not get a little creative
Atlanta?
here?
We've got an Atlanta, Texas.
Do you really?
Yeah, we have a Colorado City.
For Pete's sake, grow up.
Let's go.
Hey,
yes, Fitzy.
One more name I want to throw out in this pitcher discussion because I feel like we're not doing our jobs if we don't talk about Jamie Arnold here.
Oh yeah.
It's guys, are you ready for this? Also 5-1, 0.66 ERA. All right. He's actually thrown more innings than Hagen Smith, 5 more innings, and his ERA is like half. So 60 strikeouts, 9 walks in 40 innings. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, And again, it's they played a week non-conference schedule, but they're in conference play now, and he is awesome. I mean, I don't think I talked about him because I was on the show last week after I saw him against Clemson. But I mean, I think I've talked about him on the show at some point. I mean, it's just really, it's nasty. Like he's taken such a big jump, and I already liked him last year as a freshman. But I mean, it's just it's that low slot with the upward kind of VAA, and it's just like 93, 96 and holds it. and he's got really good feel for the slider, and he's got a changeup, and it's just he's special. He's really special, and I think he's right there in that conversation. He's only a sophomore, he's not draft eligible, so maybe it's easy to overlook him in this discussion, but he's right there for me with Hagan and Burns.
Yeah, it's been a year of good, in spite of the nuclear offensive environment. There's been some incredible pitching performances. Ryan Johnson of DBU, and oh my gosh, the kid Huge from Winthrop. What's his first name? I want to say it's
Riley Huge.
Yeah, I mean I watched him on Synergy the other night. Just spinning breaking balls like crazy. So that's been good. How about this one? I'm trying to think of competitors. So top freshman, Drew Burris is top of mind. Is there anybody that's in his stratosphere? Not really.
I mean, I think Daniel Cavey from Miami is, if you're looking for an offensive freshman, he's kind of second on most of those lists. I mean, your guy Runes. Yeah, you were all in on this guy at the end of the year. It's a 1230 OPS for Cuvée, hitting 396 with 9 homers and playing third base. So, but Burris, 1367 OPS, 14 homers. I mean, he's the choice, I think, for freshman. Is there an obvious pitcher that we're forgetting about? I mean, I don't know that there is. Dominic Vagley from Kansas, the guy that we were high on. He's one of the top freshmen I see in this leaderboard here.
You can do the leaderboard by grade, Fitzy?
No, I was just looking at the names and seeing who I recognize as a freshman.
I would say this too. Like I mean, he's behind Burris and Cuvée for me. But Gavin Grahovic, my preseason pick, has had a really nice year. I mean, the thing for him is, he's hitting leadoff for a top 5 team. There's a little bit of swing and miss there with him, but 330, 934, 9 homers,
Kendall.
34 RBIs, 1.077 OPS. So behind those two, but pretty good year.
No, absolutely, and I get it. You're going to go to bat for your guy, but it's 300 points behind our man Burris on OPS. It's not really the same discussion.
Yeah. Well,
how about
a little different role though.
I'm trying to give you a hard time.
He's
very good. He's obviously a very legit player who is having a very good freshman year.
Yeah, and that first 3 hitters for A&M, you definitely, it makes you feel like you're not watching a college game. Like Grahovic, Laviolette, and then Montgomery. You're like, what?
Well, I mean, to Aaron's point on Grahovic, to some extent, like it makes life a little easier to hit when you have Laviolette and Montgomery behind you.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, on freshman arms, boys, like this is so Clemson's got a really important freshman arm, Aiden Knock, right? That's how you say it. Knock. And then really good changeup, and then UNC's got the 2 freshmen in their rotation, so it'll be interesting. Like that's an interesting dynamic for those guys. But you're right, no one is in Burris is a clear tier 1. And then Cuvé's numbers are tier 2, and then I would Grahovic would be my third guy. Yeah. What about this? Is a tricky one. Best coaching job in the first half. Kendall, what do you think there? What jumps out at you there?
Well, I mean, given the fact they were picked to finish near the bottom of the ACC again, Virginia Tech would be in the mix. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this one's a tough call.
I do think I'll jump in for you. I do think, John Sheff at Virginia Tech is definitely a good choice. It's a team that did not have any experience coming back in the rotation. And so we just didn't really know what to expect from them. We really liked their position player group, and that group has been very good, but I love what they've done with their pitching as well. I just think he's kind of steered the ship with a steady hand. But I think the other name here, and there's several. I mean, honestly, it's funny. Like I wrote down a few ACC guys here. I think Chris Pollard's done a great job at Duke, but it's a team that, we had as a preseason top 15 team. It's about what they are. I mean, they've kind of performed to expectations. Clemson, I had Eric Bakich written down here just because it just feels like he's kind of really masterfully managed that thing. And they were preseason number 10. They're number 2 right now. So it feels like they've achieved a little bit more than expected to this point in the season. And there's certainly, the way that they've gone about it with all the comeback wins, with the preparation, with the way that they teach offense. I think a lot of that stuff is tied up very, very much in their coaching. So for me, he would be, probably him and Sheff would be the top 2, top line for me.
Link would have to be in that discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, after last year, and not only what they've done offensively, but as you mentioned with Arnold, they've got some nice pieces in the rotation too. I'll tell you a guy for me that I've been really impressed with this year. And granted, like, I mean, if you look at their schedule, like their schedule has been awesome. But I'll tell you what, I thought last year that, Mitch Hannes and his staff did a really nice job. And, Brian Smiley, was a heralded assistant for them. He goes to Miami, Ohio in the offseason. They lose a lot of key pieces on the mound. They lose Brian Smiley. And I think we're all kind of going, okay, like, let's see how Indiana State does without those guys. And fellas, I mean, they're 21-5. They're the class of the Missouri Valley once again at 5-1 in the league. Mitch, I mean, it's like wash, rinse, repeat, and Terre Haute.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did a deep dive on their pitching the other night because I was just like, I kept forgetting that Brian Smiley is not their pitching coach, because I was with you, Kendall. Like when Brian Smiley left, I was like, oh man, is that now? In fairness, Brian Smiley really was the creative like genius behind the recruiting plan, where you've got kids from Puerto Rico and Venezuela, and then like your traditional tough, physical, older Midwestern kid. But Justin Hancock, their pitching coach, I didn't realize he pitched in the big leagues. Like he's done an incredible job. In that same vein, Kendall, I'm going to submit DBU to you guys. And here's the why I say that. Like they're number 10 for us right now. And you know how we all like, this is a rhetorical question. You know how hard it is to be DBU and be this good every stinking year? Like DBU can't beat the SEC on a player. I don't even know if they could beat a Big 12 program on a player.
Yeah,
it must be
true though. They like there are guys at DBU like that they beat like A&M and Texas on, mainly because of the religious affiliation and because of the tradition they built. But by far and large, like you're right, like they're not beating those programs on very many guys. But they'll get it. They'll get 2 or 3 like studs. But like guys like RJ, like they've developed. Like they've developed them from where they were on day one to superstars, and that's to their credit.
It's really, really incredibly impressive. You're right about just the way that they develop. And, Grant Jay was a really good player last year, and he's a superstar now, as a sophomore. I mean, and you're right. I do think it's important to note that, like, they're also just they are obviously really good at the recruiting piece, not just the development piece, but like they must be winning some important recruiting battles because, like, and I'm not an expert on that stuff. I don't follow high school recruiting, especially in the state of Texas. I have no idea, but like the guys that they're getting in, like they're getting a lot of impact freshmen. It feels like every year, right? I mean, it's just, the Elwanger kid now, I know he's been hurt, but like, it's another one. It's just like, these guys were not like long-term projects. These were guys that they're getting in there. And so they built something special that people, kids want to go play there.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed about DBU, and I saw them a couple weeks ago, was, I mean, they look like an ACC SEC team in terms of the physicality. Like it's a very physical, big club. Yeah. They look the part.
They're legit, guys. I feel like this is the year for them. It's
wide.
We've been talking about it. Like somebody's got to bust down that door to Omaha. Maybe they beat ECU. Maybe them and ECU get there together, because I still believe that ECU, with that 1-2 punch, that Yastavich root punch there at the top of the rotation, and all the experience they have in their lineup, feels like could be an Omaha team too that's just kind of lying in the weeds. They're not really paying much attention to ECU, and then here they are. Like, it feels like those two teams that have been kind of parallel trajectories, like the best programs that haven't broken through to Omaha. It feels like it's about time for both of them.
Yeah, it feels like some of the famous teams programs are more flawed than usual, and some of these types of teams are kind of lying in the weeds with an Omaha run that's kind of there for the taking. Let me give you a few more coaches. Like, I just want to mention Nathan Cho. You mentioned him a couple podcasts ago, Kendall. Like, coaching at Washington State, like it can't be more disadvantageous. Like, you don't have a conference to recruit to. Like, I'm imagining your whole roster is getting contacted, right? Like, people are contacting your players through the back channels. And here they are just hanging around. I know they lost the weekend series to Washington. I want to say the same thing for Utah and Gary Henderson. Like, they just won a series against Stanford. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And, they have to have a really unique recruiting plan. Give you 2 more. Nick Mingione at Kentucky. Like, I was skeptical that, hey, can that plan work back-to-back years? There were so many close calls last year, and here they are, 8-1. Here's one that I want to just open it up for. I like Chris Lemonis. Like, I think they've done an outstanding job
Yeah.
in a very, like, you talk about like uncomfortable. Like, I feel like Mississippi State's fall practices were uncomfortable. I don't know what you guys think, but
That's a great point, Runes, because like let's just call a spade here. I mean, it was it had become a cauldron after 2 seasons like they had back to back. You know, it felt like all of the goodwill from winning it all there had kind of been used up. I mean, it just is what it is, you know. And I'm not the coaching carousel guy, you know. I think coaches probably deserve a lot more leeway than they often get, but it had to be getting uncomfortable there. And you know, with all that angst around them, all the pessimism, they've come out and they had a brutal schedule to start SEC play with their first 3 weeks against LSU and you know at Florida and A&M right down the road. Also, I mean, you know, it could have been easy for them to be 2-7 like LSU is right now. You know, and they're 4-5. They're fine. They're sitting there in position now with the schedule opening up for them. They've got a much better team. They're going to be a postseason team. I feel very confident in that. I love the job that they've done. Just kind of staying the course again, steady hand, like not panicking. I'm with you, Runes. I like that. I like that choice.
Yep. Yeah, and they'll get. It sounds like they'll get Dome back on Friday, so yeah, I mean that'll obviously help. But I mean, the thing I like about State and the thing I like about Kentucky is, you know, having seen both in person, they kind of both know who they are. You know, like you watch them play, and like you're not wondering like who they are as a team. Like Kentucky, like they don't have a lot of superstars, but they've got really nice pieces and like Petre and you know Devin Burks and guys like that, guys that have a lot of at bats in this conference. And then you know you look at Mississippi State. You know, they've got some guys who have been through some wars in that league. You know, Dakota Jordan's having a great year. You know, we didn't mention him in the player of the year discussion, but he's had great numbers so far this year.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Justin Parker, that's one thing that's kind of stood out to me when I was talking to Schlossnagel about Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago, is he said that the job that like Justin Parker's done with their pitching staff has been really impressive. And their pitching staff has been better. I know they had a couple of, you know, hiccups late against A&M and a hiccup late against Florida, but for the most part, they've been much better on the mound. So, yeah, I'm with Aaron. I think they're a definite postseason team. But Lamonis is an interesting one. That's not one that we would have brought up, you know, that we thought, or at least that we thought we'd be bringing up, you know, 4 or 5 months ago.
But to put a bow on it, like I think in the offseason, all of us maybe silently were thinking, what's it going to take for Mississippi State to like, for them to kind of say like, yeah, like let's just keep rolling with Chris Lamonis. And like you were thinking like, okay, if they make a regional, but it's got to look right. And I would say that's the biggest thing is it looks right this year. Like if you're a fan of Mississippi State, I got to believe you love this team. They play hard, you know, like they're competitive. By the way, boys, on Kentucky, and then we'll go to biggest surprise teams. I didn't realize this. Grant Smith, their shortstop, transfer from Incarnate Word. He was there last year. He has made 80 starts for Kentucky. He has 3 errors in 80 starts, 3 errors. And one thing Minge told Mike Farron and I is that when a ground ball's hit to shortstop, their whole dugout yells "wrong guy" at the hitter. Like you hit the ball to the wrong guy. Like how beautiful is that?
Beautiful is the right word. Oh, I love that. I love that.
So great. Oh gosh. All right, let's do biggest surprise teams. This is for the positive. I'll start with 2. Virginia Tech, you guys mentioned it. That's one. Mr. Regional last year. You know, they've won 4 straight ACC series, have not lost a weekend this year. I'll throw Nebraska out there. They're off, you know, again, they didn't even threaten a regional last year, and they're off to a beautiful start. Fitzy, who are other candidates here?
Yeah.
Pleasant surprise.
You know, top of mind for me, Lamar, just because they just swept a series against Oklahoma. It was easy to kind of poo-poo their overall record heading into this weekend because they hadn't really played anybody. But then they just went on the road, didn't they? And sweep Oklahoma? Was that in
Norman on the road?
They're 22-5 now. I mean, like, Will Davis's club. They got some talent. I talked about them on the show, the preview show this past week. But they're on my radar. UCF is on my radar. You know, a team that I don't think we had any particular expectations for heading into the Big 12, their first season. Guys, they're still just 6-6 in the Big 12, but they're 18-7 overall, and it feels like they're trending now. They're in the top 25 this week because they've won 3 straight quality series against Texas Tech, on the road against a good Kansas team that we like, and then Oklahoma State. They took 2 out of 3 from them. They've got some good midweek wins FAU, Florida, Miami. They're on my radar. It's a team that, again, didn't really expect anything from heading into the year. Certainly wouldn't have guessed they would be a top 25 team at the midway point.
Yep. Kendall, anybody you throw in the mix besides already mentioned?
The running Utes, man. How about Utah? I mean, sitting at 18-8 overall, 7-5 in the pack. Granted, the pack's wide open this year, right? But I mean, they're a half game out of first place right now, and Hendo and Mike Brown and those guys have done a really nice job.
Yep, it's awesome. Hey, one point on Lamar Fitzy that you brought him up. So, one of their famous players that got eligible during all the the lawsuits was Drake Varnado, and he's playing well. But it's interesting. Remember, he started at Arkansas, then went to Arizona State, didn't play at either place. Like 30 career at bats. He's at Lamar now, and he's playing every day. He's playing second base. But same challenges. He's got like 29 strikeouts and about 100 plate appearances. And just think about it. Like if he was at one of the big schools doing that, he'd already be benched, right? Like they would have already moved on to another player. That's the way it works at those places. But at Lamar, he's going to keep playing. Like they're going to keep running him out there. And he apparently took over the series last weekend. Like it's starting to click for him. So now that as far as I know, you can kind of transfer whenever, however many times. Like the transfer rules kind of feel like they're gone. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I wonder if players will start maybe transferring air quotes down, get playing time, and then just transfer back up. I don't know. This is sad to say. I actually don't know what the transfer rules are now. I guess it's because we don't know what the next lawsuit is.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I was going to mention two other coaches real quick. Actually, I'll go with three. I'm sorry. Will Bolt has caught my attention. I kind of call him I'm calling him now. I haven't called him that in the past, but he's kind of the Chris Lemonis of the Big Ten. He was a guy that kind of entered the season, under the gun a little bit. I mean, he's even though they've done some things over the past couple of years, got to regional final against Arkansas a couple of years ago. But I mean, he entered the season needing to win some games. I mean, they're sitting at 25 and overall, or 20-5 overall. I think the other two coaches for me that are just, to me, what Alabama's doing isn't that surprising. We thought they were going to be good, but I think just giving what he inherited in terms of the situation, I've been impressed with Rob Vaughn, and also Matt Swope. When Rob went to Alabama, Matt was one of those guys. He is Mr. Maryland. How many people do you meet? They're oh, I can't wait to be the Maryland baseball coach. And he lived and breathed that program. And they're sitting at 20-8 overall right now. So the Terps, I mean, they haven't skipped a beat without Coach Vaughn.
They did have their long series winning streak in the Big 10 rather snapped this past weekend. But first time they lost a Big 10 series in 2 years or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, since 2021. Yeah, it's totally nuts. So Will Bolt made me think of Rob Childress, KR. I love that story. Rob Childress, did unbelievable work at A&M, just didn't quite pop enough Omahas. It kind of goes sour at the end, and now he's the pitching coach. It reminds me of Tim Jamison all over again, where a guy has a head coaching job that just becomes very stressful and unpleasant, and then he gets to go be an assistant coach there and get back to his roots, working with pitchers. And it doesn't surprise me that Nebraska is the beneficiary of that.
And that's a really good staff, man. I mean, you talk about Rob, Jeff Christie, Lance Harvell, you got Mike Sirianni, who was at Tarleton as the head coach previously at one point, and he's got really good reputation in the industry. So that's a really good staff.
I could see Rob having this whole second career kind of like Frank Anderson as going back to his roots. They both were head coaches that Frank wound up finding his niche, after being a head coach, going back and being a pitching coach, and he was really freaking good at it. I could see Rob doing that. And, maybe Rob will be a head coach again. He certainly, if he wants to be, I'm sure he can be, but I feel like he could be an elite high level, pitching coach for any program in the country. I'd be happy to have him.
Yep. I don't know if you guys would agree with this analogy, but there's some irony here. When Dave Van Horn and Rob Childress and Mike Anderson took over Nebraska in 99 or whatever year it was, they were the Tennessee of the Big 12. Everybody hated them. It was, I just remember being on the recruiting channel. People were stinking Nebraska, blah, blah. People couldn't badmouth Nebraska enough. And you're
really?
yeah.
What did people hate about them?
they were getting their rear ends beat. They all of a sudden Nebraska went from 3 wins to 3 losses. They didn't like that at all. But as the listener to those kind of comments, you're like, oh man, I want to learn more about Nebraska. Like if you're that riled up about them, like that, they must be good. It was very good. So they weren't like WWE like some versions of Tennessee have been, but they were like Tennessee, like kind of go from nowhere to holy crap, like this might be the best team in the league.
Yeah.
So this is a tough one. Biggest disappointment, team that's been the most disappointing in the first half.
And it's, hey, I think it's Wake Forest. I mean, they're preseason number 1, and they've lost what is it, 4 of their first 5 or 3 of their first 4 ACC series? 3 of their first 4, I believe. They're 4 and 8 in the league.
Yep. 3 lost to Duke, Virginia, and UNC.
Yeah. So like in the one series win is against Louisville. They got swept this past weekend at home by North Carolina, and I like North Carolina, but getting swept at home ain't good. For a team that I thought was maybe about to turn the corner, with they're getting healthier again. Cole Rowland's coming back soon, and it's like, and then they're just not very good right now, guys. And we have them still kind of holding on to the back of the top 25, but like they don't feel like a top 25 team to me right now. And I still think they rally and they find a way into regionals, but like it's starting to feel, like last year's North Carolina basketball team, where it's like they had all these guys coming back from a great team that was like, in the Final Four and the preseason number 1, they didn't make a regional, and it's like you could kind of see that happening maybe, for this team, because if they lose, they're on the road this weekend at Virginia Tech, and if they lose that series, then you're 5-10 in the league, and it's like, I mean, like then I think the schedule does open up a little for them. I mean, you got BC on the road, but then you got, and BC has proven to be not an easy out either. Then you got Florida State at home, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like it could get away from them. I'm a little nervous about it, but at the very least, like they have to show me something. Like they're preseason number 1, 5 preseason All-Americans, and they're nowhere near elite. Not even. I mean, they're 4 and 8 in the league. I mean, it is what it is. They're not very good, guys.
Yep. So Kendall, if it's not Wake Forest, let me give you 2 other options you could pick from: LSU, 2 and 7 in the league; Iowa. Either of those.
I think Iowa would be the one for me. I mean, like it's natural, I feel like sometimes to have a national championship hangover. Whereas it's like the thing about Iowa is we came into the season going, Brody, some people ask, like, can Brody Break be the next Paul Skeens? Which I think we all knew that wasn't going to happen, right? But like he's been poor. Marcus Morgan hasn't been good. I mean, they haven't really put together any kind of marquee weekend at all. So Iowa would be, top of mind for me. And I think the other team, UCLA guys, UCLA is a top 20 preseason team.
That's right. We ranked UCLA. Oh boy.
4 and 8 in the pack. And by the way, the Bruins, fellas, they have one more home run as a team than Charlie Condon.
Oh boy.
Whoa. Not great. I just want to say I gotta call out Kendall though for giving, of course Kendall's given a pass to LSU. Oh, it's natural to have a national championship hangover. They're 2 and 7 in the league, but
SEC homer.
They're 2 and 7 in the league, but we love the SEC around here, so we got to pass.
I will say this: I have my concerns about LSU, but I'd be careful sleeping on the Tigers.
No, I'm only calling you out. I actually have
hashtag sleeping on the Tigers.
I'm actually not even that worried about LSU. They're 2 and 7. Maybe I should be more worried than I am. I just think they have
whatever. Aaron's over really there on the Tigers talent. Like this.
Snoozing on the Tigers. Kendall, that's not your best fan base voice though. You respect the Seminoles that's your best. Or is it respect the Knowles? I can't remember which one.
Well, I mean, they beat Florida twice in the midweek, so I mean, they're the best team in
Crown them. You want to crown them? Crown them.
By the way, boys, I'm keeping a side list of nasty number 2 seeds, and I've got Wake Forest on there, I've got UCSB on there, and I've got Iowa on there right now. Now, Iowa's they're doing better in the Big Ten. Iowa's going to have to not have any more stumbles.
Yeah, I mean, they have zero margin for error. I think somebody asked me that asked us that in the chat, and I think I might answer the question, but their RPI is in the 90s, I want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much going to have to just dominate the Big Ten.
Yep. At least win every weekend.
Automatic bid time.
Yep. Boys, let's do players to wrap. Breakout star. We'll do breakout prospect in a second, but breakout star player. Who do you like here? Fitzy?
I'm going to give you a guy that there's it's probably not going to be our choice in our official thing here, but I just wrote about him this weekend, and I wanted to mention him on the podcast. Ben Miller at Duke. He's got an 80 grade Raleigh Fingers mustache. He's hitting like 460 or something. What is it? I mean, it's crazy. Like, this guy spent the last 2 years at Penn, last 4 years at Penn, but the last 2 years when they actually had full seasons. And he was a very good player at Penn. But he had like a 913 OPS last year at Penn, 962 year before. He's a good player. And now he's in the ACC, guys, and his OPS is like 400 points higher. I mean, it's like 1352, right? Like, he's already got more home runs, 9, than he had in either of his last 2 full seasons. He's hitting 455, and like, even in conference play, I think it's might even be higher than that. I mean, it's like 449 in conference, excuse me. So like, he's doing great against high level competition. He plays a really good third base. He's an awesome hitter. He's incredibly intelligent. I wrote about him this weekend, but Ivy League transfers have been gold for Duke, but this guy is ridiculous. And so that was the first name. I mean, you mentioned Riley Hughes earlier. For me, he'd be on that list also, Runes, but there's a few more. Go ahead, Kendall. You go next.
Yeah, well, I'm Mr. Mid-Major, so I'm going to give the Mid-Major some love here.
Go.
Give me some Grant Knipp. Grant Knipp, guys, the last 2 years hit 271, 278 respectively. His batting average is up 177 points this year, hitting 455, 15 homers, 40 RBIs. And by the way, a 1.748 OPS, which is an improvement over the 986 OPS he had last year. Pretty incredible. Second
in the country in OPS, and he's got a premium arm back there too. I believe he missed this past weekend. I don't know if we've had an update on that, Kendall, but I think he was out this weekekend. So that's something.
Yeah, he was. He's been out for 4 games now.
Yeah.
So this is on that one. This is fun. If you go to our website and just pull up the stats and the national leaders, like, you could just come up with your list right here. Lyle Miller Green of Austin P is 1471 OPS. It's just comical. Ian Farrow of Florida Gulf Coast is a cool story. Like, 20 plus home runs 2 years ago, goes to Miami, can't play every day, and now he's back at FGCU with almost a 1500 OPS. Ethan Hibbard of Fairfield, their catcher. This is the second time, Mr. Hibbard, I've mentioned you on a podcast, and I couldn't pick you out of a crowd of 2, but that will change. I'm going to school on Ethan Hibbard. So anyway, really fun. Go ahead, Fitzy.
I just attempted a Dr. Hibbard laugh for you. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Who's Dr. Hibbard? What's that?
Oh,
what's that
God.
famous for?
There's this television program that's maybe you've heard of it. It's been on the air about 40 years now. It's called The Simpsons. You might want to Google
goodness.
it. You might want to Google it.
I was in on The Simpsons early, and I've really lost it. That's
Can I admit that I was never a Simpsons guy?
Get out of here. Enough of this.
Never was.
What do we got? What's next?
No. Breakout prospect. Oh, by the way, before we do that, Penn last year when they beat Auburn in the regional. So, Jackson Appel, A&M's catcher, was hitting second for that team. Wyatt Hensler, their 3-hole hitter, is committed to somebody for next year. Is that A&M?
Yeah.
And then Ben Miller, your boy Ben Miller, Fitzy, was hitting fourth.
It's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah. Auburn must have feel like they got sharked now. It's like
Owen Cody, another Penn guy.
Yeah, right.
For Virginia this past weekend. He's back from injury.
Amen. So, all right, let's do breakout prospects. Give us a couple starters there, Fitzy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. My guy James Tibbs is the answer for me. He's somebody that has really. He was already a prospect, of course. He could really hit. He's been a performer for 3 years, but he's made for me the jump. I mean, if you talk to scouts, to elite, he's one of the very top bats in this class. I think he's got a chance to be a really high pick, like maybe a top 10 pick. I think people are viewing him that way because it's he's a left-handed hitter. His body has leaned up. He's shown that he can handle the corner outfield. He moves well out there in right field. He plays a good right field, not just a first baseman. Like he played first last year, but I think people got fooled. And the body wasn't awesome, but the body's a little better now. He's hitting 400. He's got twice as many walks as strikeouts, 17 walks, 8 strikeouts. He's got more home runs 11 homers than strikeouts. I mean, it's just plain. It's like if you're looking for the bat, the elite bat with elite discipline and power, and he's left-handed, like this is your guy. And I think he's just shot up. I think he's a no doubter first rounder, and maybe a first half of the first rounder.
Fitt, I was gonna ask you, is there any buzz on Grant Knipp in that area of the country?
I think it sounds like he's kind of viewed as like a top 3 rounds type guy. So
Okay.
yeah, potential day 1 guy.
Kendall, let me give you 2 more names, and you rank these for me. Dakota Jordan, I mean, he was famous, but like he's really come on this year.
Yeah.
And then Billy Amick is another guy that people were aware of, but feels like he has also exploded on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Billy is he's certainly going to go much higher than where we had him. I think we had him 40th in the college ranks coming into the season. And, the 3 games I saw and the games I've watched in streaming, like the defense has been way better than what I expected, kind of going into the weekend at Globe Live. The story on him had been, can he play the hot corner defensively? And like, I'm not going to sit here and say he was an all-star over there, a gold glover, but I mean, it was pretty solid. And, he's got premium power. He had been putting up pretty good offensive numbers. So, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that certainly, we'll see I haven't looked at Sife's updated list for the midweek list, or the mid-season list, but it's got to be much higher than 40.
Yeah, he's like Tibbs. He's made that jump to from that range, wherever it was, 40-ish or so, into like, top 10 to 15. Like and I was a skeptic on his defense, based on the Cape Cod League and just kind of like the fact that he DH'd all last year. To just, I was very skeptical of that, and it seems like he's gone out and done it and shown people that I can actually play third base, and so kudos to him.
Yeah, the other guy for me that has been ultra impressive is Walker Yannick. He's been a lot more consistent offensively, and the times I've seen Sam Houston this year, he was very, very good behind the plate. So Walker Yannick is another guy for me. Again, I mean, he was at 31 at our preseason list, so it's not like he was disrespected or anything like that. But he's a guy that I feel like his stock has risen, significantly as well, at least in this area of the country.
And you mentioned,
go ahead, Fitzy.
Sorry, you mentioned Dakota Jordan. I mean, I do think he fits here too. There's still probably he's more like in the Vance Honeycutt style of prospect, where it's like super duper tools, power and speed, and defense. Maybe not on Honeycutt's level, certainly, but like, but there's just the lingering questions about the hit tool, the swing and miss, the breaking balls, all that stuff. But he's gone out and performed. He's put up numbers. I love the makeup. I think his stock has certainly risen considerably. He's a really exciting player.
Yeah, he's fun. Yeah, part of that Mississippi State resurgence.
Yeah.
While you were saying James Tibbs, I was thinking to myself, who are players that have hit more home runs than strikeouts? And Nolan Shanuel last year. That's right. He was in the big leagues in the summer. He had 19 home runs and 14 strikeouts last year. That's just comical.
There you go. And he was, top 10 pick. So, I mean, I think kind of, and as a first baseman, right? And like, so I think if that's kind of your blueprint for Tibbs.
Yeah. I mean, the other guy for me that I was just thinking about, I think we had him 14 our preseason list. He's going to be much higher on Wednesday, is Braden Montgomery. He's kind of, I mean, he's taken the next step. Last year, his numbers are great, but I mean, he had a lot more swing and miss. This year, it's like anytime he even gets touches the ball, like it's a rocket somewhere. And so his stock is rising. I mean, it can only go so much from 14, but like his stock is rising.
Well, but the thing is, like, if you drafted him, you'd send him out as a center fielder, wouldn't you? Like, he's only not playing center field because of Laviolette, not because he can't do it. At least he looks like he could play center field.
And he's got an 80 arm out there too.
Yeah.
It just feels like a right field profile to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he throws like a right fielder, but he's not a flyer.
Yeah, right. That's the thing is I don't feel like he not quite as.
Yeah, I don't know if that's even center.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, nowadays it's a little bit different. It's not like you've got a lot of Devon Whites out there anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Boys, 2 things. One is this weekend reminded me of how chaotic the season has been, which means that conference tournaments are going to be amazing. And That said, this year's Phillips 66 Big 12 Baseball Championship is bigger and better than ever before. It's May 25th or 21st to the 25th. 10 teams will qualify for the Big 12 title at climate-controlled Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. Make sure you elevate your experience. I like that. With new premium ticket options, you could have premier seats, club access, complimentary perks. Kendall always gets those things. Secure your tickets today by visiting globelifefield.com/Big12, globelifefield.com/Big12. I say that in jest, but I got to tell you guys, like, I think conference tournaments this year are going to be amazing because there's it's craziness. Like, who's winning the Big 12 tournament? We have no idea. We don't even know who's qualifying.
I'm going with BYU.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just said that.
I mean, like UCF's our ranked team. Maybe just get hot for a week. So
the Bearcats have a history, guys, of getting hot in those conference tournaments. I mean, this is the year.
Yeah, that's right.
How about the Pac-12 tournament?
Last one. Yeah, the last one.
We hardly knew you Pac-12 tournament. It's been a hell of a tradition.
we hardly
clearly Arizona State's getting on the Pac-12 tournament.
Somebody who wants to be in the NCAA tournament, that's who's going to win the Pac-12 tournament. You don't want to be on the bubble a day later than win that dang thing. Kendall, you had speaking of nuclear, you had a nuclear coupon on Twitter the other day. Like for the first 16 people, you were going 35% off, or do you even remember that? Were you into the margs when you did that coupon?
Dude, that was like a Thursday at 1:00. I hope I wasn't deep in the margs Thursday at 1:00 in the afternoon.
Hey, when in Rome.
Every once in a while I get a wild hair, and I'll throw it out there for 10 people, and every single week 10 people take it. So
I love it.
We'll do it at some point this week. It'll be later in the week though.
Yes, and
24th season will work from now. That's 24% off any D1 baseball package. And by the way, I'll be on D1 baseball tomorrow morning. We will have a really interesting announcement for a certain section of you fans out there. So stay tuned.
Love that. Love that. And so again, this is the first week of the Nerdcast. Cannot wait for that. And I've been all over the website this week, doing research for games, seeing what players have done year over year, the advanced stats. I found a new thing this week. The Synergy leaderboard is flat out amazing. Like if you want to know who's got the best whiff rate for a slider or a changeup or those types of things, just absolutely incredible.
You can find WAR and defensive runs saved also on the Synergy leaderboard page.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So again, do not get any deeper into the season without your subscription. Absolutely glorious. So
I can't wait for the Nerdcast. Since we're doing a podcast with the Nerdmaster General, I need to make sure I'm nice and clean shaven.
Yeah, I got my hair cut the other day, guys. Can you tell?
It looks very smooth.
Would you tell? What's your barber's name, Fitzy? Please tell me it's a salon. Yeah,
no.
Do tell.
No, I go to Sports Clips.
No way.
No, you do not. Absolutely not.
My girls took good care of me there. We did a good job.
Oh, you're a regular at Sports Clips. God, that's amazing.
Zero shot that this guy goes to Sports Clips.
Oh gosh. Well, let's leave it there. There'll be more Sports Clips stories to tell.
He's turning red. Look at
what do you got? What do you got against Sports Clips? You're just too fancy. I get it. All right.
Well,
listen, Mr.
I'm not. I got no room to speak. I haven't been to a barber in 3 decades.
So I'll be honest with you, and I'm actually due for one. But I actually bought myself like a razor, and I just cut my own hair now. Yeah, that's what happens when you have no hair.
Yeah, it's Sports Clips is for the the coastal elites like Fitzy, apparently.
Fit goes those. What's the place called where it's like a men's salon where they give you a beer and stuff when you go there? Fit's I have no idea. I don't know what that could be.
That seems like
the boardroom. Isn't that what it's called? The boardroom?
No, I'm not familiar with that, but that does seem like to be up my alley.
The only thing I'll say about this is I learned later in life that my dad's barber, when we would go there as kids, was also a place that people could place wagers. I didn't realize that barbers were also doubling as bookies, which is
you're from that part of Philadelphia. I get it. All right.
Yeah, Delaware County, baby, where the men are men and the barbers are bookies. I mean, for God's sake, who knew? Cool. I couldn't figure out why it took my dad 3 hours to get his hair cut. I was like, what the heck? We got investments to make. So that is all. Let's not besmirch the Rooney name any longer. Gentlemen, this was very fun for a Monday. Everybody have a great week, and we will catch you next time on the